What's up, everyone? Welcome to the March 3rd edition of DraftKings Tournament Plays presented by PrizePicks. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. And as a reminder, you get 1 free month of Awesemo plus Platinum when you sign up and make a deposit at PrizePicks. Be sure to use the code Awesemo to receive a 100% first deposit bonus up to $100. Today we have a 7-game NBA slate. Not a ton of injury news, but a little bit more than we've had on recent slates. So as usual, be sure to tune in to the deeper dive and live before lock from 5 p.m. Eastern up until 7 for more up-to-date information. But for now, taking a look at 5 of the top tournament options on tonight's DraftKings NBA slate. Starting at number 5, Demar Derozan projected for 3% ownership with a 6% chance of being in the optimal lineup. DeRozan remains expensive at $10,300. He also only has power forward eligibility, so you don't have quite as much flexibility with him as you do with a lot of other players, but that's part of the reason why his ownership is as low as it is. He does have a favorable matchup tonight against Chicago. This game has a total north of 230 points, so it's likely to be back and forth. There's likely to be plenty of scoring. And in the games that DeRozan has played without Lonzo, but with Vucevic and Zach LaVine, he's averaged 1.29 DraftKings points per minute, and he's also averaged 37.1 minutes per game. So you're paying a premium for him. He's probably a little bit overpriced, or at least fairly priced, but there's still a massive ceiling for him on a slate where there's not a ton of pay-up options. You don't have Jokic, you have Curry, but Klay Thompson might be back, which has at least somewhat of an impact on him. You have LeBron, but he has his own question marks. There's no Giannis, there's no Joel Embiid, so not quite as much opportunity cost to paying for DeRozan as there usually is. Number 4, sticking with the Chicago Bulls, Nikola Vucevic is projected for 5% ownership with an 8% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Like DeRozan, he's fairly priced at $9,000, but he's averaged 1.32 DraftKings points per minute and 34.1 minutes per game in the games that he's played with LaVine and DeRozan minus Lonzo Ball this season. He should have plenty of success against Atlanta. As mentioned before, this is likely to be a high-scoring game. We know Vucevic is very heavily involved in Chicago's offense, and he's not projected for much ownership, despite having plenty of upside at his price point. Number 3, Derek White, projected for 12% ownership at $6,300 with point guard and shooting guard eligibility. We have him with an 18% chance of being in the optimal lineup. The Boston Celtics will be without Jaylen Brown tonight, and that should open up more minutes for Derek White. His playing time since joining Boston has been a bit less than I think most people anticipated with him coming over there, but it's likely that he gets up around 30 minutes tonight against Memphis without Jaylen Brown. Now, his price tag does seem to have gotten a little bump already for Brown's absence. I expected him to be a little bit cheaper than his $6,300 price tag, but he has been relatively productive since coming to Boston. He's averaged 0.94 DraftKings points per minute in his games with the Celtics, and he is likely to get a little bit more playing time and opportunities tonight without Jaylen Brown. So not a core piece for me in terms of highest exposed players, but does seem to be going a little bit under-owned given the increase in opportunities that he has tonight against the Grizzlies. Number 2, sticking with Boston, Al Horford is projected for 18% ownership at $6,100. He has a 24% chance of being in the optimal lineup. Horford has power forward and center eligibility. He played 34 minutes last game, though he still was not in the closing lineup. But Jaylen Brown's absence should lead to more solidified playing time for Al Horford. And he's also been producing fantasy points at a better rate recently. We've kind of seen Horford's production this season be up and down. He was a very good fantasy producer for the first couple of months of the season. Then he went through a spell where he was producing 0.8 to 0.85 fantasy points per minute for a month or a month and a half. Now, over the last month, he's back to 1.02 DraftKings points per minute. We haven't seen a change really in his per minute production, whether he's playing alongside Jason Tatum without Jaylen Brown or alongside both of them. But given the fact that he appears to be healthy, he's playing well, and he's likely to pick up a few more minutes with Jaylen Brown sidelined, he looks pretty good at his $6,100 price tag. And then the top tournament option on tonight's slate, as things currently stand, Clint Capella, $5,900, projected for 22% ownership with a 26% chance of being in the optimal lineup. He's on the other side of what looks like an appealing game with the Bulls. Capella's averaged 28.7 minutes per game in the games he's played without John Collins this year. He's averaged 1.19 DraftKings points per minute. Onekwo Okongwu is also out tonight for Atlanta. I don't necessarily think that impacts Capella because they do have Gorgie Jang that can back him up, but maybe he picks up a couple of extra minutes if they are less inclined to play Jang than they are Okongwu. One other potential concern is we did see Atlanta actually close with a small lineup last game against the Celtics. Capella still got close to 30 minutes in that game, but they actually closed with the smaller lineup with Gallinari at the 5. They could do that here, but I think it's less likely given that you're going up against a Vucevic-led front court. I think one way or another, you're getting around 30 minutes from Clint Capella. So to recap, the top 5 tournament options on tonight's DraftKings slate: number 5, DeMar DeRozan; number 4, Nikola Vucevic; number 3, Derek White; number 2, Al Horford; and number 1, Clint Capella.